but one person to give you an idea. This girl here was on the paper, she worked with me, she was a trampolinist, and one of her colleagues, he burst his leg doing the trampoline, and it put her off, okay? I started working with her, she'd given up, and that was the appraisal. It was on the paper, she went back into it, she ended up winning the bronze, whatever, send me a text. I'm not putting her win down to me, but the appraisal of the situation, the schema, the seeing someone burst their leg is a big, big thing. And that's what we're going to really focus on today. I'm going to give you some stuff to work on that I've done in a lot of areas. This is a game one time, by the way, when we played against the Premiership team. I was at League 2 as a performance coach. Look at the heart rate. Look how high it is, okay, even before the game. That's before the game. It's already going up to 160, 170 without kicking a ball. What is going through those players' heads? What is going through the players' heads? You think that before the kickoff, they're at 160, 180. That's how the mind, like I mentioned earlier, if you walk across this and it's this low, no big deal for the most part. But 10,000 meters is a different story, isn't it? So it tells you a lot about what's going on. So for me, when you're under a lot of pressure, I'm going to go into it, the frontal part of the brain that makes you human shuts down. And that's the important thing we want to look at. And today I'm going to give you some really good techniques, not just for sport, by the way, for everything in life in general. Okay, so not just for sport. Okay, the model I'm going to use, that I use for simplicity, it's not the only model. You probably, if you've done CBT, you know it's come from REBT, Albert Ellis and Beck. I'll credit them. And if you want the model, you can have it. I've done the, I read a manual in it. I'll send you the copy if you want. But it's a situation. Then you have the thoughts that are linked to the situation, and they cascade feelings, behavior, physical reaction. I find the model useful because it's quite simple in the way we can break down the situation. Because if I'm walking across here and it's 1 foot and it's 10,000 feet, I can understand what's going through your thoughts, your beliefs, your underlying schemas. Okay? In the talk that James did before, he talked about schema. I would understand as a schema what we understand about certain situation or specific items. So you can work on that. So what I do, I flesh things out, take the mesh out, then use intervention at a different level. And I've got some interventions for you that I'm going to show you to strike at different levels. Because these are multifactorial, okay? No model is panacea. It doesn't matter what you do, hypnosis, NLP, CBT, compassion focused therapy, DB, there is no panacea. There's no one model that will work for everybody. Okay, I study neuroscience and I can tell you that there's 86.4 billion neurons in the brain, trillions of cells. If you think you're going to stand over someone and say, you will do this, you will do that, you're going to burn yourself to the ground and frazzle yourself. Because that's the biggest myth. You don't do anything. They resynthesize in their own brain. Neurotransmitters and all these things that's going on. Trillions of cells in the body. I can assure you now, our way of communicating verbally, which is relatively new in evolutionary terms, where the brain is concerned, you burn yourself out. So for me, it's about creating experiences for people. In my opinion, in my world. What you do is entirely up to you. So the fear response, very briefly, which is important. Okay, so this is a classic case of fear response. So let me just talk you through the scientific fear response very briefly and get this out of the way so you got an idea. So the long and short of it is, by the way, if you look at it this way, so I'm going to break it down, is the thalamus gets the information from all the senses. Okay, 5 senses, but we heard before about interoception, and we heard of obviously our own internal senses too, but let's sort of stick with the 5 senses. The only one that goes to the limbic system is the smell, by the way. Okay, that's why if you wear perfume, sometimes, if you smell perfume, it reminds you of the ex-partner. Okay, yeah, so, and these sort of things. The perfume goes to the limbic system, that's the only one. Okay, but it also goes for the thalamus too, but more for the limbic. Okay, so the thalamus sends information to the amygdala. Okay, and then you've got a situation where you're drawing information out of the hippocampus from previous events that have happened in the past that you're drawing from, your own limited experience. Okay, that's the scientific fear response. The amygdala deactivates the hypothalamus to trigger the fear response in the body. And why is that important? Because when we're going to go later, you knock out the prefrontal cortex. Then the part that makes you human, because you've got the spine, evolutionary. You've got the brainstem, hypothalamus, limbic system, the neocortex, 200,000 years. The part that makes you human is gone. So Dan Goleman's book on the emotional hijack. So the player can't even take a penalty. he or she goes to type. They freeze. You see them like that. They don't know what to do. And that's a big, big problem in sport. You're going to go into it. Okay, huge problem. Okay, so you want to get that working. Reappraise the situation. So all of a sudden,